everyone, good day, and today I'm going to discuss to you all about the parts of engine and its function. So for better understanding, I'll show you some pictures of the part of the engine and I explain to you all about their functions. So what are we waiting for? Let's start! Talking about engine. So, engine is the main automotive component for any automobile. It works as a heart of the automobile. A lot of research has been made to improve performance of automobile engine by improving engine components. Some very important engine components in modern automobile engines are engine block, flywheel, crankshaft, piston, and etc. In an engine, many parts work together and achieve the goal of converting chemical energy of fuel into mechanical energy. These parts are bolted together, and the combination of all these parts is known as engine. Today, I am going to tell you about these parts and how they work so you can know the basic of automobile engine. So first, we have this cylinder block. It is a container fitted with piston where the fuel is burned and power is produced. Cylinder is the main body of IC engine. Cylinder is a part in which the intake of fuel, compression of fuel, and burning of fuel take place. The main function of cylinder is to guide the piston. For cooling of cylinder, a water jacket for liquid cooling use in most of cars, or fin for air cooling use in most of bikes, are situated at the outer side of cylinder. At the upper end of cylinder, cylinder head and the bottom end crankcase is bolted. Second is that we have this cylinder head or cylinder cover. One end of the cylinder is closed by means of cylinder head. This consists of inlet valve for admitting air-fuel mixture and exhaust valve for removing the products of combustion. The inlet valve, exhaust valve, spark plug, injector, etc. are bolted on the cylinder head. The main function of cylinder head is to seal the cylinder block and not to permit entry and exit of gases on the carburetor valve engine. The third part of the engine is what we call this piston. Piston is another vital engine component. It is a partly hollow cylindrical part closed at one end, fitted to each of the engine's cylinder, and attached to the crankshaft by a connecting rod. Each piston moves up and down in its cylinder, transmitting power created by the exploding fuel to the crankshaft via a connecting rod. Piston rings. These are used to maintain a pressure-tight seal between the piston and cylinder walls, and also it transfers the heat from the piston head to cylinder walls. These rings are fitted in grooves which have been cut in the piston. They are split at one end so they can span or slip over the end of the piston. Connecting rod. One end of the connecting rod is connected to piston through piston pin, while the other is connected to crank through crank pin. It transmits the reciprocatory motion of piston to rotary crank. There are two ends of connecting rod. One is known as big end and other as small end. Big end is connected to the crankshaft and the small end is connected to the piston by use of piston pin. In this picture, the other part of the engine is the crankshaft. Crankshaft. The function of this is to transform reciprocating motion into a rotary motion. The crankshaft of an internal combustion engine receives the effort of thrust supplied by piston to the connecting rod and converts the reciprocating motion of piston into rotary motion of crankshaft. The crankshaft mounts in bearing so it can rotate freely. The shape and size of crankshaft depends on the number and arrangement of cylinder. In addition, the part of the engine that connects rod and crankshaft is what we call the crank. So you might wonder what is different between this crank and crankshaft. So this crank is a bent piece of a shaft or an attached arm perpendicular or nearly so to the end of the shaft or wheel, used to impart a rotation to the wheel or other mechanical device, also used to change circular into reciprocating motion or reciprocating into circular motion, while crankshaft is a rotating shaft that drives or is driven by a crank. The next one is the flywheel. Is a rotating mass used as an energy storing device. A flywheel is secured on the crankshaft. The main function of flywheel is to rotate the shaft during preparatory stroke. It also makes crankshaft rotation more uniform. The other one is the crankcase. It supports and covers the cylinder and the crankshaft. It is used to store the lubricating oil. The main body of the engine to which the cylinder are attached and which contains the crankshaft and crankshaft bearing is called crankcase. It serves as the lubricating system too, and sometimes it's called oil sump. All the oil from lubrication is placed in it. Next is that we have puppet bulbs. A bulb is a device that regulates, directs, or controls the flow of a fluid, like gases, liquids, fluidized solids, or solarays, by opening, closing, or partially obstructing various passageways. The intake and exhaust bulbs open the proper time to let in air and fuel and to let out exhaust. Note that both bulbs are closed during compression and combustion so that the combustion chamber is sealed. Spark plug. The main function of the spark plug is to conduct the high potential from the ignition system into the combustion chamber. It provides the proper gap across which spark is produced by applying high voltage to ignite the mixture in the ignition chamber. Engine bearing. The crankshaft is supported by bearing. Everywhere there is a rotary action in the engine, bearings are used to support the moving parts. Its purpose is to reduce the friction and allow parts to move freely. Governor. A device for regulating automatically output of a machine by regulating the supply of working fluid. When the speed decreases due to increase in load, the supply valve is opened by mechanism supported by governor, and the engine therefore speeds up again to its original speed. Thus, the function of a governor is to control the fluctuations of engine speed due to changes of loads. Next is that we have carburetor. Carburetor is the heart of the automobile engine. It is the fuel system engine component that meters and mixes fuel and air in the proper proportion. The carburetor also optimizes this mixture and directs it to the intake manifold that distributes its through passages to each combustion chamber in an engine. What you can see here is what we call fuel atomizer or injector. Fuel injection is a system for mixing fuel with air in an internal combustion engine. It has become the primary fuel delivery system used in automotive petrol engines, having almost completely replaced carburetors in the late 1980s. The primary difference between carburetors and fuel injection is that fuel injection automizes the fuel by forcibly pumping it through a small nozzle under high pressure, while carburetor relies on low pressure created by intake air rushing through it to add the fuel to the airstream. The fuel injector is only a nozzle and a bulb. The power to inject the fuel comes from a pump or a pressure container further back in the fuel supply. The other one is what we call manifold. The main function of manifold is to supply the air-fuel mixture and collects the exhaust gases equally from all cylinders. In an internal combustion engine, two manifolds are used, one for intake and other for exhaust. Just to clarify that this intake manifold is the part of the engine that supplies the fuel or air mixture to the cylinders. In another hand, the exhaust manifold collects the exhaust gases from multiple cylinders into a smaller number of pipes, often down to the one pipe. This one is what we call Piston Pin or Piston Pin. These are the hardened steel parallel spindles fitted through the piston bushings and the small end bushes or eyes to allow the connecting rods to shrivel. It connects the piston to connecting rod. It is made hollow to lightness. And this one is push rod. Push rod is used when the crankshaft is situated at the bottom end of cylinder. It carries the crankshaft motion to the valves, which are situated at the cylinder head. And here we go, last but not the least, is the timing belt. Timing belt, an engine component, is a cord bolt, usually of reinforced rubber. The purpose of a timing bolt component is to provide a quick, flexible connection between the camshaft and crankshaft to keep the engine valves opening and closing in phase with the movement of the engine piston. So guys, that's the part and function of an engine, but there are many important engine components which are very important in the proper functionality of an automobile engine. In general, all engine components are essential for proper working of engine. And that's all, and God bless everyone.